Hey, 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 welcome everyone. Welcome back to Move Abroad Monday. I am Dr. Raquel. If you are new here, thanks for joining us. So, a little about myself. So, I have lived in different countries around the world, and I currently hold Mexican residency, and I am planning for my own relocation abroad again. And so, I talk to you about all the tips, the tricks, the things, and what I am currently doing to prepare for my upcoming move abroad. So, welcome to Move Abroad Monday. So today I want to talk about something that comes up all the time, and that is money, of course. And so just about every question that I get asked somehow is related in some way to money. So can I actually even afford to move abroad? That's kind of the main one that I get. I get why people think that the answer is no. You know, when you think about someone who lives abroad, you assume lots of things about them, like that they have a lot of money, that they have lots of savings, that they have a high paying remote position, that maybe they're already financially set before they decided to move abroad. And for some people, that is the case. But there are many people who move abroad, many people I work with who move abroad who don't have this huge pot of money. They're not rich people, but they have a plan. And so I think that is really important to know how you're going to fund the life once you get there. So of course, you know, what the expenses are to get there are also very important, but really the life that you want to live is going to be a huge factor when deciding whether or not you can afford a life abroad. And those are two very different things. So we need to be very clear about that. So, for my family, when we first moved abroad, we obviously were not rich. We didn't have a huge amount of savings, but we knew exactly how much savings we wanted to shoot for before we left to go abroad. And so we had income and we had a plan. That's basically what we had. And even over time, that plan changed, like based on what we were doing abroad. We started out with just my husband working abroad, and then I had to quickly find a job abroad. So then he was working in Germany. I was also working in Germany. Then I got offered a position working in Belgium, and so then we moved to Belgium from Germany. And so then also, he worked in Switzerland prior to that. And so then at some point while I was in Belgium, he also was working in Switzerland. And then I also studied in Spain. So there are a lot of different moving pieces. But it really is important when you think about the money side of moving abroad that you're not just focusing on how much do I need to save. Obviously, savings matters. You need money for flights, you need money for visas, you need money for shipping if you're going to ship anything, although you know how I feel about shipping. You need to sell as much as humanly possible before you decide to go. You need to think about paying for housing, any upfront costs that come along with the move. So, you know, there are a lot of things that you have to think about when you're thinking about how much you need to have saved. But to me, the bigger question is like, how are you going to live once you're there? Because your move abroad is not like a vacation. It's not a trip where you need to say, okay, I'm budgeting for these 2 weeks. Like your move abroad, this is real life. So you are building a real life. And with that comes normal, real expenses. Those are housing, that's food, long term, that's transportation, that's health insurance, that's phone bills, utilities, school, childcare and everything else that comes along with day-to-day life. Some of those things might be cheaper than where you are now, especially if you're in the United States. And some things might also be more expensive because they may be considered more like luxury things where you're moving to. And some things are going to completely change, okay? Because obviously it will be a different country. So instead of only asking, like, how much money do I need to move abroad? I want you to think about three specific things. So, first, what does it cost to get there? So, that's your first expense. That's the moving abroad piece, okay? Secondly, what does it cost to live there? And that is your monthly budget. Those are those normal expenses, the same ones that you have in the US. those are the same ones you're thinking about when you are abroad. And the third point is, how are you going to continue to have the income to pay for those things once you get abroad? And that's your income plan. And honestly, that third one is where things start to feel a lot more doable. Like once you know that you have a way of funding your life abroad, maybe it's working remotely, maybe it's getting a job in that specific country where you also want to think about cost of, or not cost of, but where you also want to think about exchange rates. So are you going to get your bang for your buck if you are working in that specific country? Maybe it's freelancing, maybe you have your own business. Maybe you're retired, or maybe you just want to save and just chill for a year or two. Maybe you want to take a career break, which sounds fantastic. Um, Maybe you're moving with a partner and they have employment. And so you're going to be able to both live off of that employment. You want to combine your employment. So there are lots of different things that you can do. There's no single right way to fund your life abroad. But what matters is whether those specific numbers work for your situation. And that's also why I don't like it when people say things like, oh, you need $10,000 to move abroad. You need $6,000. You need $20,000 to move abroad. Or you need 6 months of savings. If you don't know your cost of living where you're going, how do you know how much savings you need? You need to know the basics before you can give a definite number. And that definite number will change for every single person. If I'm moving to a place and for me to live there for 1 month is $10,000, I'm going to need more than that probably if I'm not planning on having income as soon as I land. If I'm going to a place where my monthly income is going to be $1,200, that $10,000 might be able to last me most of the year. So that number, it means something completely different depending on where you're going, how you're living, what your income is looking like when you get there. So it can last a long time in one country and a shorter time in another one. So I really don't like when people give specific numbers because that number really is completely customized to you. So the real question isn't, have I saved enough according to somebody else? How do they know whether or not you saved enough? But it's, have you done the math for your specific move abroad? And if you haven't, then you really just start simple. Okay, look at what you are paying for right now, because more than likely you're going to want to do those same things in a different place. You're going to need to eat, you're going to need to get around, you're going to need clothes, you're going to need maybe to go to a doctor. So what do those things cost? What will you actually need to spend money on while you're abroad? And then you want to look at the place where you're considering that move. I always have shared Numbeo, Numbeo, which is a cost of living calculator, which is my favorite one. And you can compare like the city that you're living in now to the city that you might want to move to. What does housing cost there? Do you need a car? What does healthcare cost there? Groceries, you can get down to the specifics of what type of grocery that you're looking for, what type of beer you like to drink, and what expenses are you going to bring with you from back home? Are you bringing a car with you? Will you still have a car note while you're going somewhere else? Is there someone that you're taking care of financially that you will still need to take care of even if you move abroad? So what expenses will you still have back home that you're carrying with you? And then compare that to the income that you expect to have. If you don't have an income, you probably don't want to move yet. And I know that is controversial where people are like, you can pack it all up and just go. I highly do not recommend that. I highly recommend that you have a financial plan before you get on a plane. Before you decide to pack it all up, you should definitely know where your money is coming from. And this is where things can get really, really sticky if you don't have that. Because what you don't want to do is be homeless in Mexico or be homeless in Zimbabwe or be homeless in Switzerland. Okay. And so, I think that you really just need to kind of consider those things. And if you don't have those things, maybe you're not ready to move today. That's okay, because now you know what you need to do to be ready to move. So that's not a no, that's just informed. And so when you're informed, then you can make an informed decision and you can start making informed plans as to how you can make that move abroad happen. Maybe you do need to save a bit more. Maybe you're like, dang, I have more than enough. I can leave right now. Maybe you do need to find remote work, which of course I can help you with that as well. But maybe you just need to adjust your destination. If you're like, I want to move to this place or this place, and this place I'm ready to go now, and this place I really need to save a lot more. Maybe that can help you make a decision. And so, that's really what financial planning does. It turns something that just feels kind of vague and overwhelming and I'm not really sure and I might need to do this or I might need to do that. And it can help you kind of narrowly focus to see what specifically do I need to figure out in order to make this specific move happen. And so I also just want to encourage you to just stay flexible. You want to stay flexible because jobs change, income changes, countries change, plans change. Um, And a good plan really isn't about predicting it all. It's just about giving yourself enough stability and flexibility to be able to adjust when things happen. Because I'm going to tell you, if you are planning to move abroad, things will happen, things will shift, things will change. And so if you've been thinking, I can't move abroad because I don't have enough money, I want you to get more specific. That may be the case, but get more specific so that you know for sure what does enough actually mean. Okay. Is it enough to move? Is it enough to live for 3 months? Is it enough to live until your first paycheck? Is it enough to live for the entire year? Can you take the whole year off? Those are all very different questions. Okay. And so once you know your number, then you can actually work towards a specific thing. Okay, so it's not just like this whimsical idea. And moving abroad is a definite financial decision. Like it takes finances to live anywhere you're going to live. So we're not even about to sit here and pretend that that is not the case. It is absolutely a financial decision. So you want to be wise as you're making that decision, but you also don't want it to be a hindrance for you because it's not a hindrance. It's just something that you need to be informed about. Do your research, know your numbers, figure out your income plan, figure out your savings plan, how to give yourself some breathing room so that you're not stressed once you get abroad, and build a plan that actually fits the life that you want to live. Because, like I said, you might even be closer. I had a conversation, and I was talking to someone about their move abroad, and they were we were working through their financial plan, and by the end, we were like, you do know you can leave right now, right? Like you do know you're completely ready to move abroad right this second. And so that was such an exciting conversation to go from like, I'm not really sure, like I'm nervous, do I have all the things together to like, oh my gosh, I can leave right now. And so if you're working on your move abroad, I would love to know like what is the biggest money question that you're trying to figure out right now? Maybe we can work it out together. Um, so if you can drop it in the comments, I might be able to answer it in a future Move Abroad Monday. And so I just love to hear from you kind of what's going through your mind and what you're working on right now in terms of making that move abroad a reality. So thank y'all again for joining me today, and I will see you next week. Bye.